If I ask you the question for location of store, do you put the petrol station before the traffic light or after the traffic light? The answer is
Welcome to the Game of Impossible podcast. My name is Leon and this is my dad, Idris Jala. We are a father and son podcast where we discuss all things transformation through the lens of business, leadership, sport, and faith. Today I want to talk about how to sell, the art of selling. You know, we were recently in a meeting and I think a lot of us in the PEMANDU team forgot that you had a quite a long stint in retail in your time in Shell. And we thought it would be good to maybe talk a little bit more in depth, not just about retail, but I think how to sell in general. I think in order for us to sell, there are three basic human drivers that we need to play into. It was Aristotle who defined them as pathos, ethos, and logos. So pathos is basically the emotion. How do we pander to people's emotions? It's where we get the word empathy from. Ethos is then where is your sense of credibility? In marketing and advertising, we call this your reason to believe. So how do we show people facts that would be convincing for them to buy your product or buy your service? And then finally, logos. How are we building trust in the way that we also communicate and tell a story? And Dad, I want to start by maybe asking you, in your time in retail, how have these things played out?
I like the way you frame it. You start by saying, how do you market and sell? And then there's a key point. The starting point is that how do you market and sell a product? Retail is a method of doing it in a particular channel. But let me begin with your first question. In my mind, when you start, the starting point must always be 5 things you're looking at. The first one is the target customer insights. The more precise you understand the target customers that you're going for, the more likely you're going to succeed. So you need to really look at your customers, understand exactly the insights. In retail, you know the main insight is that if you have a retail store in a residential area, the main insight is a repeated purchase for people that are going there for a specific item that they didn't buy in the big weekend grocery store. This is a top-up sale. They forgot about it. They will repeatedly go and do it. I would say 30% of the things that you sell in the retail store, convenience store, are plain purchase. That means you forgot on the weekend, you didn't have enough of those things, so you now have a quick dash at the convenience store. And 70%, would you believe it, the things that they purchase are actually totally impulse. My point is, you understand the behavior of the customers in convenience retailing, then you know what to put there. So that's one. The second one is very important, is that you now must frame your customer value proposition. You have to make it so specific. For example, 7-Eleven in convenience retailing, they understand that people want to go there regardless of what time of the night. The store must be open. That's why 7-Eleven is open 24 hours. KK Mart is open also 24 hours. Quite a number. Speed Mart is not open 24 hours. So if you say your proposition is your cheapest in the market, for example, unique proposition, you say it out loud. Third, you must prove reasons to believe. So if you're saying that you have the cheapest product that is available, you must prove it. You need to make sure that you know exactly what your competitors sell, at what price they sell. And you now must demonstrably prove to customers that yours is definitely cheaper than them. You can't just go and bluff that you are always cheaper. You got to check every week. You got to go there and look at the competitor's price and bring yours lower than them. That's your propositions. So reasons to believe is very important. The fourth area, which is so key, is called a trade-off. What is it you're not giving to the customer? And why is that important? Because the final point. If you say, I'm not going to get in my retail store, if you come here, you buy, you can't turn back six hours later to say that, you don't really like this product, I want to return. No such thing as return. For example, why is it important? Because of the last point, pricing. what I give to you is a unique value proposition. What I don't give to you is the trade-off. And for that reason, I now can say, this is my pricing. Because what I give to you and what I don't give to you, I can determine what kind of price point do I put my product to.
Yeah.
And so this is important. So once you have done this, that's called a strategy formulation for marketing and sales. You are very clear about what you intend to do. By the way, these 5 principles that I described, Leon, doesn't just apply to retail, doesn't just apply to a convenience store. It applies to overall marketing. In particular, when you do B2B sales, when I was managing director of Shell Middle Distillates, we were selling our product to businesses. We didn't sell it to the consumer. And so we used these 5 points to determine the strategy, how we're going to do it. And so this is the way in which you do. Once you've done it, then you say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Then what do you do in the actual business must align with this from head to toe. It must align in all the areas, for example, the rules on how you deal with product mix and merchandising, how do you deal with customer experience and store operation, how do you deal with pricing and promotion, how do you deal with inventory and supply chain management, how do you deal with people and profitability in the store. And all of this all hang together based on the 5 points that I described before. If you want to, we can go through blow by blow the detail.
Why don't we do that?
Okay, Leon, let's take it blow by blow. I call it the 5 rules of thumb for convenience retailing. I want to dwell much deeper on convenience retailing.
Okay.
As it turned out, Leon, yesterday I had a very good meeting with Segi Fresh. Segi Fresh has got nothing to do with Segi University, by the way. And they have 150 units. I had many discussions with the folks in KK Mart as well. And so, and both of them, I understand what they're trying to do. And so very interesting because revealing. I shared my experience when I was doing convenience retailing in Shell, both in Malaysia as well as when I was based in London. Let me talk about the 5 rules of thumb. The first one pertains to product mix and merchandising. I would say this. You have to be very clear about the store format to begin with. And typically, you could say there are 3 types of store formats. Stores that are transient, that means the customers are on the move. For example, moving from office to home. That's a transient store. So if you have a convenience store in between where the guy is moving from home to work and back to home, that's called transient store. Then you have a store that is residential store. That means where people live. Then you have another store called a focal point store. That means a store that is sitting next to, let's say, a very special focal point, say a university. A store sitting next to a hospital. A store sitting next to a pub. So the kind of things that you put in the store will differ from the ones on the transient format. It will be different from the ones that are residential format. Let me describe what I mean by this. For all 3 types of stores, 70% of the products must be exactly the same for convenience retailing. So if you carry a brand, for example, Shell or KK Mart, Segi Fresh or Speed Mart, 70% of the product must be exactly the same. So that means you go there and the people will know, if you go to the store, you will get those products there. And so predictability is very important. The other thing that's important, 20% of the product you give allowance to the 3 different types of stores. For example, if you have residential stores, you're going to put things that are needed for the home. But you don't put those on the transient store. The guy's going to and fro work.
Yeah.
They're totally different. And so let me talk about the focal point. You allow the retailer to put 20% product outside the 70% that are focused on that particular store. Then 10% you're giving allowance for the retailer to customize. Let's suppose you're next to university, you can put books there.
Right.
Pencils and things that they need. If you are next to a pub, you can consider selling chips. So these are very specific things, but you allow the retailer a 10% leeway.
Sure.
So 70%, 20%, 10% rule for your merchandising. So that's one. The second one that you need to do is the Pareto principle for the mix. You will see 80% of the sales, regardless of the store type that you have, 80% of your sales come from only 20% of your SKUs. That means sales key units. And so you have to watch this. And you must recognize these 20% SKUs, sales key units, are the ones that really carry the weight for the sales. And then you're going to put them on prominence. As I said before, there is we call it customers make impulse decision within 7 seconds. So you have to place the top selling items, the SKUs, where it's most likely they're going to have the impulse. For example, at the counter. That's an impulse. The guy standing at the counter, what are you going to put next to him while standing there waiting to make the payment, to take this and put it there? That's very important. High margin stuff, things that you know that they're likely to take. And the other thing that you will do is that impulse purchase, if the guy comes into the store and comes to the chiller and takes a Coke from the chiller, as soon as he turns, what does he see? Never put books there, never put toys there. You're going to put snacks, things that the customer is going to buy because the impulse.
And complementary to the thing that they set out to buy.
Exactly. So you need to do this. And very, very important impulse purchase. I would also say 10 SKU rule. That means your top product per category do not have more than 10 items of that time. Snacks, for example, chips. Don't put more than 10 different type of chips. So limit it to 10 maximum because you will clutter the store if you put too many of that. And then there's also the 3x3 rule facing. That means that product that is so important, people are buying it and it's high margin. Make sure you'll have 3 of the product line up in this way, 3 of the product this way, and that means there are 9 of them.
Right.
Immediately facing.
Okay.
And that is what you do for the product mix and merchandising.
So repeat that again. 3
going down.
Yep.
3 horizontal. 9 altogether. So let me return to the second area that we want to look at, the customer experience in the store operation. How does a customer experience the store? We have what is called the 5-second rule. The customers need only 5 seconds to decide to enter the store. And if you can get the customer to enter the store, you don't get any sales. So your job to just make sure that they enter the store. What we found in Shell, 100 over years in Shell, in more than 100 countries, we see lighting is a very, very important rule. That's why you see Shell, very, very bright lights, and the light is yellow. We call it in Shell retail visual imaging. The more bright it becomes, the more likely it's going to draw the customers within 5 seconds.
I think from a practical level also, you mentioned earlier about not wanting to put too many, not too big a selection of items, because then that sometimes you become paralyzed by the amount of decisions and paralyzed by choice. So I think in a similar vein, by sort of encouraging brighter lighting, you're removing another level of hindrance, which is what if you can't really see the product?
Can't see the product.
So on a practical level as well, you're just making sure that you are making your products, your things as clear as day as possible.
So returning back to the 5-second rule, if you are in a residential convenience store, and this experience we found typically in Western Europe, if you are intending to sell bread, fresh baked bread, placed right at the entrance of the store, it will bring the aroma. It's so compelling, they will walk inside the store.
Do you know there's one example of a retail space that does this very well, the play on scent. And it's Lululemon. If you step into any Lululemon, I don't know if anyone has noticed, but there's a very particular smell in there. And it's one type of diffuser that they put in. I bought a Lululemon piece of exercise gear many years ago. I used to think this thing is overpriced nonsense. But I happened to be sucked in because I thought, wow, the shop smells really good. And then when I bought my clothes, even when I brought it home, the clothes clothes continued to smell of
Right.
the shop. This really nice smell. And then it kind of got me hooked, not necessarily to the clothes alone, but just to the certain smell. But I think they do that very well
That's
because it's not,
exactly-
you
that's
don't
exactly
just,
right.
you're not just selling the product, but you're selling an experience
Yeah.
of the store as a whole as well.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to draw people inside the store. The second important rule of thumb in customer experience is called the 60-second rule. You must serve the customer within 60 seconds, 1 minute. That if the guy is waiting to pay for more than 2 minutes, that's bad. And you must make sure that you have speed of execution, you have enough till for people to pay. Everything must be within 1 minute rule. If your check-in counter person is slow at doing that, you must make sure they're trained to be able to do it. Your point of sale material, everything must be geared to serve every customer within 1 minute, no more than 1 minute. Because any hassle, people walk out.
Can I ask you a question on this one? There's a store I can think of right now that absolutely does not do that. But I wonder in this case whether it's intentional because they take so long. I won't say exactly which name, but you can do the math yourself and figure it out. There's one in particular, an authorized retailer for Apple products. And when you go in, first of all, it takes a long time for someone to attend to you. But secondly, even once you've had someone attend to you and they've helped you to, sort of check the stock of the product and you're now ready to pay. Now, even for you to pay, you've got to enter a queue.
Right.
And sometimes that queue in itself, you end up waiting about 10 minutes because there's a long song and dance that they do with each customer.
That is bad.
But I wonder whether that's intentional.
No.
Do they do that intentionally
No.
to create a queue? And
No.
as people see a queue, they think, okay, scarcity mindset. Therefore, maybe I should also be interested in what is going on in this store. Do you think that there's a little bit of that being engineered sometimes with certain
Of
stores?
course, when they introduced a new product, when Apple introduced this new phone, iPhone 17, they will run out of it simply because I think there's some intentions that they do this scarcity. But a normal store operation, that's bad. That's absolutely bad. If I'm the store manager, I really, really will grill those guys and make sure that they serve the customer within 1 minute. You don't want people, because you know what? The guy walks inside there, the 2 minutes is up, he walks out. You lost the customer.
Yeah.
More often than not, you will lose the customer if you do not attend to them. The third one is called vertical merchandising. If I walk into a store and I see chips, for example, 5 different types of chips that are sold, if they're stacked on the shelf this way, Leon, I already know that the store does not know what they're doing. That's called horizontal merchandising. The way I understand it, the way the rules that we have is must do a vertical merchandising.
Why is that?
The reason is this. You take the 5 chips, you look at the one that the highest margin for the store, you put that one right at the eye level because you want the customer to see that one. The one that is lowest margin right at the bottom. So this way, boom, 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 boom. Because you don't want them to choose that one. That comes to what is called the 5 feet rule. The highest margin product that you really want to sell, because that's good for the store profitability, is at 5 feet.
So is it on margin or is it on volume of sales?
Both margin and volume. Normally, margin is what that primary driver, because if you put it there, then the volume will come. So you really must look at those 2 measures. So I think that is very important. So the customer, when they come there, particularly for kids, the kids, when they come into a convenience store, they are the decision maker.
Absolutely.
So the impulse purchase is for the kids. That's why the height of that must be tailored towards them as well. And so very, very important to go and do that. So let me now turn to the third aspect called pricing and promotion. Every store, you insist that the store manager must check out 1 or 2 benchmark stores among the competitor in the trading pocket. Mm-hmm. So you want the store manager to go there every week to check the price. What is the price that they are selling? And you don't go and survey everything. You just look at which your main competitor in that area. So typically take 1 or 2, no more than 3, because you don't have time to go and do this. So you go in the morning, you get your salesperson to go and do it. You might hire people to go and do this job, but you must do this. Because if you don't know this, you cannot determine your price points that I described in the earlier part of our discussion. This is key for us. The second one is that I don't believe in convenience retailing on this 99 cents. People know this is nonsense, that you're trying to cheat them. So we always believe in the rounding up number, 0.0 or 50. Yep. Very important for us to go in it. So you don't confuse the customer with 0.99. And when you do promotion, the best way to do promotion in convenience retailing, buy one, get one free. The buy two rule, buy one, get one free. To say 50% discount is no good, although it means the same thing. But it does not sell. If you say, we're giving you 50% discount in retailing, buy one, get one free, powerful. If you put that two method in two different stores, one store says 50% discount, another store says one buy one, get one free, I guarantee you the one that say buy one, get one free sells more than the 50% discount. For some reason or other, people like free. 50% discount is not free. See? One free is a very compelling thing for customers. So always use that in your promotion. And also the top items that you have, you must make sure the top items there must always be available. Let me talk about inventory because it's very close to it. It's called the 3-day inventory rule. Every item that you top selling, you want to make sure the turnover is done within 3 days. Don't overstock, because when you overstock your biggest selling item, you're going to pay a lot of money for putting them in the warehouse. So the 3-day turnover rule is very important so that you don't have to spend so much money on overstocking. But it also means you look at your stock supply. It's called a dead stock. If the thing is not selling, it's called dead stock. Do not keep more than 5% of your items as dead stock. Clear them. If they're not selling, stop selling those products. The dead stock cannot sit there. Interestingly enough, we did some work for a furniture company in London, PEMANDU. They had quite a lot of dead stock in dustbins.
Yeah.
And the problem with dustbins in central London is that the cost of warehousing dustbins is exorbitant in central London. They were making lots of losses. They were not paying attention to dead stock. That's why so many of them were there. The other rule is called the 100% fill rate. That means when you go to the store, if this product is on sale in the store, if somebody buys it, there's a hole there. It needs to be filled. Your top selling item, your sales manager must know never to leave a hole in the planogram. You must go and fill it. So constantly going out there, looking at the thing that's empty, 100% fill rate, filling it. When the customer take it, there's a hole there. Go and fill it, because that's very, very important. That's your top selling item. And daily top up for your drinks and cigarettes and things like that. You must have a daily top up. And so that's what you do in inventory and supply management. And typically, it's best to make sure you automate this. All your top selling item, don't rely on your people to go and look at what is empty to make the order. You connect your point of sale material directly to place the order. Today, in this day and age of AI, Leon, this is very easy to do. Mm-hmm. And even within AI, when I was in Shell, we were doing automatic ordering system. And let me talk now about the people side. Remember, I told you before that you want to serve the customer within 1 minute. So everything, people must be trained. In a big grocery store, for example, the one we go right opposite, Village Grocer, if a particular check-in counter person is slow at the till, you have to time them. You go and sit down there, and there must be a way to time them. How long do they take to do that? If they're taking too long, you have to teach them how to scan it properly, how to make the payment. So every check-in counter person needs to go through a rigorous training to make sure the speed is there. Because if the speed is not there, the queue gets too long. But of course, if they're doing it very well, the point of sale equipments are good, the speed of execution is good, but there's just not enough check-in counter. You must put enough check-in counter. The manager need to look at the peak period. The peak period is where you judge it, not in the lean period, because the lean period, it doesn't matter because there are just too many counters there. So what you need to do is stand there during the peak period as the store manager, check that every customer is attended to within 1 minute. And if you can do that, make the changes that is required to make that happen. The other thing you need to do in convenience retailing is that train people so that they're multi-skill. You cannot have somebody just able to do the check-in, but just the cashier. The person must also be good at merchandising. The person must also be good at storekeeping and cleanliness and all these things. Because in this day and age, you have to keep your costs very low. Margins tend to be very, very low in retailing. So if your cost of running the store is high, you cannot actually make money. You will end up losing money. So multitasking is absolutely critical in doing this. And of course, the most important thing for the people is they must be polite. They must know what to say. You train them to say exactly what you train them to say. In fact, you should give them a script, what to say.
Absolutely.
And if you don't give them a script, they don't know how to speak and engage the customers. Teach them what to say, how to say thank you, how to welcome them. If you go to Uniqlo, Leon, you know exactly what the drill is. They will welcome you, Uniqlo. But that's a script given to them.
And that's within your first second of entering the store.
Yeah.
Not just one, but maybe 10 people
10
telling
people.
you the same.
So you need to train them.
Yeah.
So the more you train them, although it sounds rehearsed, Leon, after a while, it's rehearsed in the beginning, it becomes authentic.
Correct.
After they've used and done it many times. So you can give them a few scripts, just 1, 2 or 3 different scripts so they can use it so that it looks more authentic.
Yeah, right.
As well.
And I mean, it also, by scripting these things and standardizing how people in the store speak, communicate, greet people, how they talk about the products as well, that in itself becomes branding, if you like. Everyone jokes about the Uniqlo thing, but that is their brand. Everyone knows that when you go into Uniqlo, you're going to say, welcome to Uniqlo. You're going to hear that. And it's not just the words, but there's a certain way that they say it as well. And so that becomes part of your branding. And that's why we think it's important that you also maintain some sort of familiarity to your brand. Because I think where there is familiarity, then ultimately you develop loyalty and brand loyalty because people like what is familiar.
Let me talk about something very, very specific to customer insights. For example, on highway store, talk about pricing. On a highway store, a convenience store, you can increase the price of your product by up to 20%. More than any others.
Right, because you've got no other choice.
Because they have no other choice. If the guy, for example, ran out of cigarette and he comes to the store, so if you put the cigarette at 20%, he or she has no other choice, he will buy the cigarette, but never push it beyond that. If you push
never beyond 20.
Never beyond 20. If you push it beyond 20, that guy will remember you. It's called insult pricing. You have insulted me. I am pissed off. I will never, ever again walk into your brand of store ever again. And the other thing that you will do is that on that highway, if you have 2 types of cigarettes, small pack and big pack, never put the small packs there. Put only one. That means the big pack, because the guy is a captive. He's going to get it. So you give him only the big packs to take. And if you go to a store that have a slush machine, then you have a small cup or big cup. Always put the big cup on the right, because most people are right-handers. And if you sell condoms, never put the condoms behind the check-in cashier, because the customer is not going to say, please, can I have a condom? Never do that. Where do you put the condom? Right on the top of the shelf.
Right.
Just at the cashier, at the counter. The other thing in transient store, because I was working a lot more in convenience store for petroleum. If I ask you the question, for location of store, do you put the petrol station before the traffic light or after the traffic light? The answer is absolutely after the traffic light. And the
Why is
reason
that?
is because the guy is stuck there at traffic light red. He's got enough time to think, oh, I better go into the store.
Right.
I think I need something to get. So you must do it after the store. And if you have a choice, do I put the station before the hill or after the hill? Definitely before the hill, because after the hill, there's acceleration of the car coming down.
Yeah.
The turning to the left to the store is quite inconvenient. But, if you do it before that, you don't have the problem. So always before. And if you want to build a store on the highway, you never build a store perpendicular to the highway. You tilt the store about 15 degrees this way. So 15 degrees this way. And the reason is this. 50 meters away on the highway, when the car is driving, the driver can see a full view of the store.
Correct. You want to prolong the amount of time they can see the actual front view of the store and even look into the store. Whereas if it was perpendicular, you will zoom past it pretty quick. You'll see the overall store.
Absolutely.
And then the station.
Yeah.
But you will zoom past that little short section where you see a little bit of the entrance and you see what's inside.
Yeah. So these are insights that are so critical in retailing now. How all these things I described before, so many things I told you today about the things that you really must make happen in the store. How do you make it happen? That is this. You must engage enough marketing and sales or operations executive and assign them the store. In Shell, we need to have one marketing executive that look after 20 stores. And they have a standard SOP, standard operating procedure, everything I described before. So that guy will go to the store and he says, you have not done the vertical merchandising. This is the thing you need to do. And they observe that the 1 minute rule is not there. All these things. So this person's job it is to make sure there's compliance to all the things I described. So what you then do is, when I was in charge of retail, both in London and when I was in Malaysia as well, we make sure that people, the marketing executives are trained to execute this. This is the way discipline of action needs to take place. They need to go there, they need to go to the store to make sure they don't go AWOL, absent without leave. There's a logbook in the store. The marketing executives turn up in the store, you put the date there, put his name there, and put the signature that he's been to the store. And these are the things he's checked, and write down the things that he checked in the logbook. This is important because if you don't do it, you can put all these rules, Leon. Nobody is complying with them. You make sure that the compliance is 100% through the marketing and the sales executive. And that's when you start doing that, you really, really are on the ball. Let me turn back to the most important thing about business. It must make money. So this is what you must do if you're running the store. You must have what is called IROPS, individual, retail, outlet, profitability system. That means you have to know each of the store that you run, is this particular store making money or making losses or just breaking even? And you must rank them. If you have 1,000 stores, you need to rank all the stores on profitability from number 1 to number 1,000. Rank them in that store. Once you now know them, you must understand why the top 100 are doing well, why the bottom 10% are not doing well. How do you apply those? I can tell you 90% of the things I described before, the stores at the bottom ranking are not complying with the rules. That's why they're not there. That's why tremendous attention to detail. We call it retail is detail. Retail is detail. And if you don't have attention to detail, thou shalt never go into retail business. And so now I'm going to tell you another one. So that's called segmented profit and loss statement for every store. You also need to have segmented profit and loss statement for every single sales key unit.
Every product.
So if you have 5,300 different types of product store in the store, the best practice is to do that. Once you start doing that, and then you know which product is making money, which product is not making money, which product is just losing money for you. That's how you declutter your store and focus on what matters.
It's interesting because we're talking a lot about physical retail and in-store purchases, but it's also interesting to see what's happening in the space of e-commerce. Now, if we look at it, of course, in Malaysia, physical retail is still dominant. But now if we turn to Malaysia's e-commerce volume in 2024, 16 billion USD, with a CAGR of 16% projected for the next coming years to up to 2027. I'm thinking specifically now about not just e-commerce as a whole, but I think this is going to increase even further with the rise of things like TikTok Live.
Right.
I mean, this has been an amazing phenomenon that we've seen, especially during the pandemic, of just kind of live stream selling. If we look at TikTok Live, we have seen that TikTok reports that in-stream shopping has increased 120% over the past year, with over 8 million hours of live sessions. And we are seeing that TikTok Live is projected to reach 77 billion USD in annual sales by 2027. There's one guy that comes to mind, and I think he has been able to do both very well. This is a guy called Nigel Sparks, and he runs a company called Cap City. He's one of these guys who does many things. He's a musician, but he also has this shop. They essentially just sell caps, fitted caps and stuff like that. But what he has done is that he has built a name for himself through producing content online. So the sort of ethos part, if we go back to the ethos, pathos, logos, under ethos, I think he does this through doing online content. So he's built a personality around himself. But then he translates that into his store by saying that it's not just about the vibe that I carry, but he builds a community. And so I remember going into his store because I thought, honestly, is this all just performative? Is it all just a show? Or does it really happen in store as well? And so I went to his store. And in his store, as you said, the behavior, the DNA, it permeates throughout because his staff were already speaking the lingo. And so from the very get-go, the staff treat you like you are part of their community, even though they don't know you. And so there's a very thought-out physical store experience. But what is really interesting is he does most of his big sales on TikTok. And he's known for his TikTok lives. They've become a thing in itself. People look forward to them because what he will do is he will do a TikTok live marathon. Sometimes it will be a 12-hour non-stop TikTok live for 12 hours.
Wow.
In the past, he's also done a 24-hour marathon. And when he does this, what he does is he not only has his TikTok live, which allows him to sell at scale and at a larger volume, but then it becomes a story opportunity for him. But it also becomes an opportunity for the online community to contribute. So what is interesting is that he has married the two, because when I went to the store, I was being served by one of his team members, one-to-one. But at the same time, I noticed that there were a bunch of food deliveries coming in. And so I asked the guy, his name is Anik. See, I still remember his name because he took time to build relationship. I asked him, what are all these deliveries coming into your store? He said, actually, we're right now in the middle of doing a 12-hour TikTok live in our studio upstairs.
Wow.
And so these are all from our community, knowing that we are going to be doing this marathon. So they're sending food to us. So that we can keep our team upstairs fed while they're doing this 12-hour run. And so this, to me, was amazing because there was these two worlds of your physical retail, but then your online coming together. But what was more interesting was the fact that this was no longer just a transactional relationship between you and the store, you and the company, but now you have, what he has done is he's essentially built a community where not only is he providing a service or providing a product to you, but that the community are so bought in on the brand, what it stands for, that they are also willing to contribute to the people of the store, to the business as well. And then beyond that, he has this other thing which he brands as Payung. And it's his idea that I cover you. And so he does these tours around Malaysia where he goes out and, he gives to certain communities and he invites people to also do the same thing for others.
There's a lot of buzz.
Very, very, very impressive. And then to top it all off, when you go into his store, knowing that the TikTok Live is such a big thing, from outside the store, even if you don't step in, there's a huge TV
Right.
placed right at the store window so that you can watch the
Can do
TikTok
both.
live and you can do it from outside. And then if you feel, you know what, maybe I want to have a look, then you can go in and then you can experience the store itself. But what do you think about the future of physical retail then for other companies?
You're absolutely right, Leon. Online shopping is a very big phenomenon. It's highly disruptive for businesses that are focused entirely on physical stores. And I really believe that in the future, you'll have 3 types of channel. One is the online store. It's going to grow bigger and bigger, more than you ever imagined. Then you have the dual channel. That means you have both the physical and online. You'll have still the physical stores, but they're very, very unique and specific. The other 2 will become bigger and bigger, in particular, Leon, because of the use of AI. The search engine is going to be so powerful, even better than you imagine today. Because that we're using AI, if you give a specific prompt, what is it you intend to buy? And I want you to give me a recommendation for price, for etc., and it will cover through every item that is available in the world and will give you precisely what you want to go for. AI in the future is going to become so revolutionary for the search engine that the customers will get what they want to, really more precisely than currently. Because today, not every retailer has fully put everything on the portal. And if they're on the portal, it's going to change, hugely disrupt everything in terms of physical store. And so I do believe that the 3 channels will be important. So if you are just running a physical store today, I really encourage you to go online. Yeah, absolutely. Even if it's not doing so well, you must go there because you will understand much, much better customer behavior and purchases patterns based on doing it. In Heineken, we have this thing called Drinkies. Drinkies is an online portal where people can buy all their drinks and product and chips, etc., directly online. You know what we found out from that? We don't really need to do customer survey, actually, because we understand customer behavior a lot more than when we ever did. The data is so robust, and that's free. All you need to do is analyze the big data that's coming out from them. You get so much insights, physical and real insights into customer buying patterns, where do they buy it, etc., coming out from that. So I really encourage people to go online, and best to make sure exactly what the guy was describing, his best practice, the dual channel. You must have an online and a physical store on both fronts. And if you can put the 2 to jive together, it's absolutely going to be very good. I do believe in the future of malls. The future of all shopping malls, in my view, malls must provide experience for outing. That families want to go there because it's an outing. So you have to have malls that provide experience for an outing. People don't just go there to go and buy this and return, because that they can easily buy them online. Why would they now drive all the way to the store, come to the mall? You must say, this weekend, the parents will say, we're going to have a very nice outing. We will have dinner there. We will shop there. We will do some pickleball, many things. The experience of what people will do, it becomes a destination. The shopping mall must become a destination. So I urge anybody who's running any shopping mall, if you are not doing it a destination for an outing for the family, be very careful, because eventually your business is going to be heavily disrupted because of online shopping. You will realize that people come to your store, check your dress, check that it fits, they still don't buy it from you. They still go home and get it. So pricing also very important to go and do this. And that is very, very important.
So physical retail is here to stay, but I think there are things that we can do to make sure that we create more of an experience.
Yeah.
If online shopping is allowing us the convenience, then what physical retail must offer then is the experience, which we won't be able to get. Well, we get it to some degree online, but we won't be able to get in its full form. And so I think it's good that we talked about some practical ways for us to optimize our physical experience, but also to think of ways that we can amalgamate both your physical and online experiences together. And then I think if we're able to do that, then I think the future is looking pretty good for retailers out there. Well, thank you all for listening to yet another episode of The Game of Impossible. We hope you enjoyed this conversation, a bit more tactical, a bit more practical in nature. If you did, we encourage you to subscribe. Many of you who listen to us regularly are not actually subscribed to our channel, but we please encourage you to subscribe. It really helps us to be able to...
And it's free, yeah?
And it's free to grow as a channel. But as we grow, that also means that we're able to have better guests as well. So thank you all for listening. You can subscribe to both our YouTube as well as Spotify. We post episodes every Friday at 6 a.m. and we also have short form content on both our IG as well as TikTok at The Game of Impossible. Thank you all for listening and we'll see you next week.